All right. Hello again. This is Ben Hitchcock Cross talking to you today. Hopefully, we have something like good levels. I don't know. Um, what an introduction. We are going to talk about school resources officers in the Milwaukee Public Schools. Just recently, a circuit court judge ordered the Milwaukee Public Schools to install school resource officers according to the law. Now, some 2023 law by the Wisconsin legislature mandated the Milwaukee Public Schools have 25 resource officers in their I don't like the word resource officers. These are police officers in their schools. Okay. I don't however many thousand hundred schools they have, they got to put 25 in there. I don't know what. So MPS doesn't want to have 25 schools police officers in there, so they just don't have them in there. And I think that's really what the problem is more than anything else. We're going to read the complaint. We're going to talk about it. We got lots of stuff to talk about here, but I'm not a big fan of police in the schools. I think a school is a place to learn. Now, if there's problems that involve the police, I can see that being the case. My biggest problem with the sort of MPS MPD axis here is that too often I have found that the Milwaukee Police Department is really acting as a security um, detail, Pinkertons, not for the city of Milwaukee, the people of the city of Milwaukee, but for the administrators of the Milwaukee Public Schools. And I think the big distinction there is that the administrators are using the police to further their employment war and not to actually legitimately use of police powers. That's what I think. That's what I've experienced, and so that's I think if you can't trust the Milwaukee Public Schools administration with the existing arrangement, I don't know why you could trust them anyway. Doesn't matter what I think. The legislature said you got to do it. If you accept the American system, that means you got to do it. There is no sort of sovereign school district. Doesn't work like that. School district is a creature of the state, period, the end. And I just also find it because you always hear MPS talking about how it's the state, it's the state, it's the state. Well, maybe you should just start following the state's laws. And we might be a little bit further than we were. I mean, that's where I'm at right now is I want some legal compliance. And don't sit there saying that you can educate the children of the citizens of Milwaukee if you can't follow the law. That's all there is to it. You don't want to follow the law, fine. Then go protest every day about it. You have lobbyists on your pay. You have all sorts of things you could do, but if you don't win, what you don't get to do is take our marbles and go home. Can't do it. So let's look into who's stopping these people. Now, you all know I'm not the greatest fan of the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, but we do overlap a lot of the times. So, how's the best way to put it is I have no problem with them um, enforcing this Milwaukee Public Schools to follow state law. That I think everybody has not only has the right to do it, but probably should be doing. Um, I just again, I wonder the motives of the Wisconsin. I don't think they're doing it to protect the kids. That's my number one priority. They can tell me I'm totally wrong. I could be totally wrong. Absolutely accept that. Um, but ideologically, I think it's a more of a ideological move for them in terms of, just as they say, law and liberty, than it is. I think there's a fundamental disagreement here that more police officers um, lead to more liberty. I generally don't think that's the case. I understand the countervailing argument that is we need to have rules and laws here. I oftentimes do this to uh, maintain a safe enough society, and then to maximize liberty. Get that concept. Um, but then there's also can be a critical tipping point in which more laws equal less liberty. Fair? All right. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me how. All right. Judge orders Milwaukee Public Schools to follow the law and hire safety resource police officers and put police officers in the school. The news. The Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty will won a significant legal victory against the Milwaukee Public School District as a judge denied MPS's motion to dismiss and granted Will's application for an alternative writ. Ooh, I like that. Ordering MPS. We're going to look at the complaint because you know how I feel about extraordinary remedies. I love the little devils. Okay. Ordering MPS to comply with Wisconsin law and provide a legally required number of police officers in all public schools no later than February 17th. It's 25, as far as I understand. The quotes, Will Associate Counsel Lauren Gruel stated, I don't know how you pronounce that, but I have an aunt with that same last name, and that's how she pronounces it. I'm pretty sure. Bam. She used to be named Sweet, if you can imagine. That's they put the face out there, so we're gonna acknowledge that. Lauren Gruel stated, "This is a massive triumph for parents and kids who want to go to school in a safe environment. Without this ruling, MPS would have simply continued to ignore the law, and parents like our client would have been left with no options." Second half of the statement, somewhat agree with. First half of the statement, don't necessarily agree with. And the significant is such a strange word because to us, right, significant means there's something there. Well, significant can be anything from, enough to hold the door closed, to jam up the door, to a whole mountain can be significant. So that's sometimes why I don't like that word. But it does have it's substantial. Same thing with substantial. All right. Milwaukee parent and Will client. Oh, all right. Charlene Abu Grin expressed, I am grateful to Will for bringing this lawsuit. I will sleep better knowing that my child and others will be protected once MPS begins to comply with the law. That's totally made up in my estimation, but why not? I can't say I've never done that. More on the judge's decision. If MPS fails to have 25 school resource officers in the schools on the morning of February 17th, the district must appear before the court at 3 p.m. that afternoon to explain why they have not adhered to the law. The ruling underscores the importance of student safety and holds MPS accountable for its failure to comply with state law. As part of the ruling, the court has directed Will to amend its initial complaint and add the city of Milwaukee to the case. The court said it would issue a written order by Monday. Oh, that's possibly why we don't have it. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. No question, there is a connection between the city of Milwaukee's police department and I will wait to reserve judgment on that, but not sure why that would be the case. The latest will win compels MPS to immediately address safety concerns that have been left unresolved for an unnecessarily prolonged period. Blah, 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 blah. The ruling ensures that MPS is on a clear timeline to meet its obligations under law, which is a critical step towards ensuring student and staff safety in the troubled district. Whoa. I mean, what district isn't troubled? Additional background. Adopted in 2023, Wisconsin's Act 12 primary focus on the option of a sales tax, yada, 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 but it snuck more. It also did more. As part of state law amends, it requires MPS shall ensure that no fewer than 25 school resource officers are present at schools within the district during normal school hours, and that the school resources are available during certain additional periods and events. And the law requires that as be in place no longer than January 1st, 2020. I don't know why. Present at schools. You know how many schools they have that are completely empty? I mean, if they really didn't want this problem, look, it's a bunch of money, I get it. But seriously, you could nominally comply with this without actually complying with it. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. But hey, that's the thing. Again, headline message here. I challenge the concept that more police, especially in schools, equals higher safety. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe I'm totally underwater on that issue for MPS. Also, I challenge this concept of what about local control? I mean, that's ultimately isn't MPS and the system for schools to ensure that the local government has the local control, and why is the state then putting an additional mandate? Who's paying for these 25 officers? I mean, there's some problems here. This is what do you call it? What if they're not paying? There's a mandate without funds, unfunded mandate. So a tax on the city of Milwaukee is what we're talking about. Not a problem, but um, definitely an issue. So let's talk about um. Okay, so let's look at the complaint and go from there. All right, State of Wisconsin Circuit Court, yada yada yada. State of Wisconsin, to each person or entity named as a defendant. All right, this is what the summons is. Always the first page here. Da 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 da. Electronically signed. Oh, dang. 8th day of October 2024. And this thing is resolved in theory already. I mean, I know it's an extraordinary writ of mandamus. All right. Now, what is a writ of mandamus? There's plenty of writs. Keyword in mandamus is mandate. Okay, which is kind of goes both ways. This is a mandamus is the court telling someone that you have to do something. And how is the court able to tell a government official that they have to do something? Because they have a mandatory duty to do it. Mandate, mandatory, mandamus. It's no accident. All right. They got the Milwaukee Board of School Directors. That's the secret name under which MPS is actually incorporated. This is an action to enforce requirements established by 2023 Wisconsin Act 12, yada, yada, yada. Ooh. Despite the plain and positive duties, okay, that's what we're going to have to. All right, so sorry. Basically, 4 elements. Number 1, that you have a positive, clear and positive legal right to whatever it is that you're asking for. Okay. Now, this parent is going to have one because she's a parent of this kid. So the kid so it's not her right, it's her child's right, or the guardian, whatever it is. That pupil has a right to have 25 or at least whatever portion of 25 officers in the thing because he's a pupil. Number 2, there has to be a positive legal duty, a plain and positive legal duty, um, which is something along the lines different. Here's a sort of a difference between what's clear and you shall do this X. Okay, no problem. That you shall cut the grass. Okay, on July 25th. Okay, court clerk has a positive duty to cut the grass on July 25th. There's no question about what they're supposed to do and when they're supposed to do it. Positive and plain legal duty. Okay. Now, here's another good option. You need to make a decision by such and such date. Well, that's not so clear as to what it is that you have to do. You shall certify the election returns. That's a lot more clear. How about the agency shall ensure compliance with the whatever the heck? Okay. Well, how are they supposed to ensure compliance? Do we know? Is it clear? Can a judge look at this document and say, I know that they know what they're supposed to do? Or are they being given latitude here? If they have latitude, you've got a problem if you want to mandate them to do something. Number 3, you have to have no adequate remedy at law. So, easiest way to do that is other than going to the circuit court and demanding and filing this writ here, is there some other appeal or other mechanism in place that allows you to um, fight this? Okay, because you don't get to go to court to get a writ when there's a established procedure on how to do it. Number 4, You have to have some kind of damage. Doesn't have to be great, but it has to be, you have to be harmed in some kind of way. Okay? So let's now then, everything in this complaint should really be going on these four elements. Despite these positive and plain duties. Now, you don't want to put positive and plain duties because that is a conclusatory statement. It's not an actual fact, but whatever. The MPS does not comply with the statute, and several individual board members have publicly said they do not want to comply with the statute. Well, that sounds about right. The plaintiff, a parent with a child enrolled in a school under the direction of the MBSD, has a clear legal right. This is again a legal conclusion, not an actual state fact. There's substantial risk of her child and his safety due to defendant's inaction, and she has no other adequate remedy at law. Okay. These are again the it's just an introduction statement. Yada yada yada. Oh. The statute defines SRO. This is interesting. As a law enforcement officer who is deployed in community oriented policing. What the hell does that mean? And assigned by the law enforcement agency that employs him or her to work in a full-time capacity in collaboration with the school district. What in the hell? 62.9. Whoa. The city of Milwaukee and the board are additionally required to agree on an apportionment of the cost. Well, see, that to me is the biggest trick there. That would I would see on the big. Well, we haven't been able to agree. You can't make us agree. What are you talking about? I mean, you can put a law that says we have to agree, but how are you going to mandate? That's a big weak. That would be, in my opinion, that's the biggest problem. The statute defines law as a person employed, but yada yada. Okay. Respondents refused to comply. The board did not ensure that no fewer than 25 school resource officers are present at the schools within the district during normal hours. To date, the board has still not ensured any the police officers are present. Since the adoption of Act 12, the board has repeatedly discussed the statutory SRO but has refused to implement it. Okay. Yeah. That I can see that happening, and that would be something to mandate them. Do you see the argument that I'm making here is okay, they've got to have these people in place there. Maybe that's positive and plain. But if it says they shall agree on the cost, well, is it 20/40? Is it 30/60? Is it if it had said they will shall pay 50% of it, boom. But the point where they're at, well, shall agree, then those negotiations could in theory go on forever, apparently because nobody wants to do it. And that I think is the problem with the way the law is written. That would be my number one argument. I wonder who was the city attorney's office or somebody else representing um, MPS. You know, by the way, that for everybody else's case except Deb Keither Associates, it's the city attorney's office that represent them. But for us, it's Von Breeze. During this update, the then superintendent, that's Posley, I'm guessing, on compliance with the act. Okay, during this update, why don't they name him? Stated that the administration had been in discussions with various stakeholders and sent groups to various locations to see what other schools were doing. Oh, they got the minutes. That's good. All right. However, at a newsmaker luncheon hosted by the Milwaukee Press Club, board president Jill Gokul Gandhi was featured, and the SRO requirement was discussed here. Who cares? During this event, part of the city's sales tax agreement was that the police officers put into MPS schools. Did that ever happen last year? It did not. The reporter, is it going to happen this year? We are going to continue to focus on restorative justice as the main lever of serving our kids. So that's my commitment. I've said that. I've gone on the record and said that over and over again. So that is what I will focus on. The reporter responded by acting, is the state going to let you do that? To which Gokul Gandhi said, I mean, you just said that they missed the deadline. So, haha. All right. I mean, that's pretty good. I'll give them that. That's good to have in there. Um, what I just feel like it's not operative that Joe Gokul Gandhi says anything about anything. What matters is, did they put the people in there or not? Wisconsin State, she may be a complete minority. That's why that's not helpful. Wisconsin State Senator John Jagler then reached out to the board president Herndon, Marva Herndon, on August 22nd of 2024, asking about the response by Vice President Gokul Gandhi. Senator Jagler wrote on the 24th, the Milwaukee Press, yada, yada, was asked about MPS meeting this requirement. Her answer was dismissive and appeared to suggest that the school district had no plans to require with the requirement, plans to comply with the requirement. I am hopeful this was simply a misstatement made in the moment. I am writing to inquire about the school district's plans to address returning the resource officer to MPS and meet the crime reporting requirements. I would not have responded to this. Paulette Chambers, who the F is that? Chief of Staff. There's no, what do you mean chief of staff? That doesn't make any sense to me. I think we should Google that. You're going to have to give me a second. Yeah, that's all right. So they change the title every once in a while, but and we can see here they got the BLM achievement, equity, access, inclusion. This used to be called, I think, Office of. It had some really weird name, like per human development or something like. Oh my God, that's got it. Okay. No indication as to how soon the police officers could be deployed, but instead stating that MPS administrators were expecting the update the Milwaukee Board of School Directors about the status of the school resource plan. Got it. Okay. So remember, even if they have a plan in place or whatever else, everything's moving on Posley time or the Galvan time or whoever the superintendent is time, not the board time anyway. Prior to that schedule, what I'm saying is this is assuming here that the board is in control of Milwaukee Public Schools, which I think is false. Prior to the scheduled board meeting, August 29th, Board Henry was interviewed by a television news station, was asked why he would say to parents who believe the placement of SROs in Milwaukee. Yeah, sorry, I know it's difficult. I know it's very difficult. I don't know what that means. Okay. At the board meeting on August 29th, Galvan explained that earlier this year, preliminary inspections were initiated, and the final draft of the MOU between the MPD and the Milwaukee Public Schools that clearly outlines the expectations was sent to the city attorney's office. There could be additional reviews. Once all the revisions, then all the entities will be in a position to discuss implementation. See, that says agree. And they're working on agree. When asked by Director if he had a clear idea of the cost and timeline and imputation and approximately 1 month from the August meeting, interim Superintendent Galvan said they still had to negotiate the cost. The discussion on this ended with Board President Herndon saying because of that, no action is required on this item. The board will move on to the next item. See, this is why you may not want to have put all those facts in the complaint because that undermines, in my opinion, the whole just on the facts of the complaint. I think it could be dismissed. I don't know what arguments they've made. I don't know. Again, that's my impression. The statute imposes separate requirements upon the board. First, they shall ensure that the police officers are available in the district separately. Yet the actions of the district and statements of board members seem to indicate that they treat these requirements as being the same. Okay, they're saying that the costs is different. Where do they get the separately part? See, that's law, not fact, in my opinion. After the board meeting, when asked why MPS was dragging their feet by another board, Marcella Garcia that she is moving slow in this because some constituents were resistant to the idea. And the board was moving slow. Oh, they were responding to democracy. All right. The board was being forced to do this. Okay. During the September 26, 2024 board meeting, no action was taken on the SROs. In my opinion, you might have been able to delete the previous 20 paragraphs. But hey, plaintiff is a resident of the city and has a child enrolled in the school. Plaintiff has additionally graduated from schools overseen by the board. Doesn't matter. Plaintiff's child is less safe today because of failure to comply with this statute. The harms will continue until the defendants comply with the law. Again, I think that's debatable. I don't think you're going to win that argument, but I think it's debatable. Plaintiffs fear for the safety of herself if school operated by the board. These are future harms. Um, these are future harms. I don't think they count. Plaintiff's children have witnessed instances of violence at an MPS school, and her children have experienced violence upon themselves at an MPS school. After the law went into effect, or not? As a resident's taxpayer of the city, every time calls are made requiring police resources harm because those officers are not available. I don't get that. To respond to me elsewhere in the city. All right. In the news article, Milwaukee Police Association President Alexander Ayala said the department is getting calls multiple times a day and that the officers are getting taken out from other parts of the neighborhood that are having other issues and getting rerouted to all these schools. But if we had school officers already in place, those school resource officers could be going to those calls instead of pulling from other districts that have limited staffing. All right. Number one, always start your counts with the preceding paragraphs are hereby incorporated and realized as stated fully herein. All right. Pursuant to yada yada, the board shall ensure that no fewer than 25. Okay. The board has a positive and plain legal duty to no fewer than 24 are present within the district. I mean, since the district encompasses the city of Milwaukee and there's more than 25, I guess you'd have to call them no, because all you'd have to say is there are 25 school community deployed. What the hell was the thing? Deployed? What was it? Employs them to work in a full-time collaboration and in collaboration with the capacity in collaboration with the school district. I mean, I think they could do this with a very little reclassification and still comply with the law pretty easily. So again, that's all I'm trying to say here. Not that they should, but that they could. Not buying the harms. All right. Not, I want to be clear. I don't disagree that there's violence in Milwaukee Public Schools. I'm saying I don't think that they've said that they've been harmed by this particular inaction. Being a child, just being there, I don't think is enough, but maybe it is. Plaintiffs will suffer substantial damages and a writ is not issued, and the board is allowed to continue ignoring the plain positive legal duty. Plaintiff has no other adequate remedy at law to ensure compliance with the statutory SRO requirement. I think that's true. That's what they want. And I like that because it's not that complicated, and they're not costs, declaring the rights, ensure and making them do what we ask them to do. Bam. Not everything under the sun. I do appreciate that. All right. So I think we are clear at where we're at with school resource officers in the this lawsuit here. If you want me to do the decision and we get the decision, let me know in the comments. That may be something I'm willing, able, and whatever the heck to do. Love the soundboard. I don't know. I think that's the main question I'd like to hear from you all is do you think um, that that more police officers in the schools is always something good or something else? I'm purposely keeping this high up here, all or nothing. Is it always good or is there room for nuance? Because I think that that's the primary assumption in this complaint. That at least from a philosophical point of view, I would challenge and say that it's pretty easy to challenge because all you have to do is remove one brick from that wall and you got nothing. You got a leaky wall. So thanks for sticking with us. We'll keep you informed.